Israel. And news which is coming out until I came on air, there were several anxious statements from the British that a ship, which I presume therefore to be British, has been punctured in the Red Sea by the Yemen People's Army, the Ansar Allah. It would appear that it came under attack, that the Yemenis at least say that it was bound for Israel. And twinned with that, the astonishing fact that from this poor desert republic, astonishingly levels of accuracy of ballistic and now hypersonic missiles are being fired and landing right on Ben Gurion Airport. What is this Yemen? Has it been visited by aliens that are super proficient in the arts of war? What is it that makes the Yemenis so incredibly tenacious, brave, and accurate in their fire?
George, when I was a weapons inspector in Iraq, the first thing that I had to come to grips with was that the Iraqis were some of the finest scientists in the world, that they had been educated in European schools, European universities, and these weren't simple Bedouin tribesmen who put on a suit and were out of place. These were cultured intellectuals of the highest order. And the next thing I learned is that the Iraqis, in many ways, looked to the Yemeni for guidance on certain technical issues. For instance, the Yemeni had the SS-21 Tochka missile. The Iraqis borrowed a missile, SS-21, from the Yemenis to reverse engineer it, and were in coordination with the Yemenis about the complexities of guidance and control. And this is in the 1990s, early 1990s.
Wow.
And it always struck me. I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is Yemen. These guys wear sandals, and they have, they wear dish rags around their heads. And I mean, I'm being very racist right now.
A knife, and
the curved knife. It's a cool looking knife. But I mean, come on, man. This is the modern world we're talking about. And the Iraqis, whenever they spoke of the Yemeni, always spoke in the highest degree, not only about their technical proficiencies, but, and I'll give another war story. We were trying to get, during the Gulf War, we were trying to get the Saudis to redeploy troops to the Kuwaiti border. After all, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and we were concerned about the Saudis moving down into the eastern provinces. And we're like, why aren't you moving your forces? And the Saudis said, we ain't moving any forces off the Yemeni border. Those guys are crazy. And if they come over the border, they could take Riyadh. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are just guys who wear sandals and wear dish rags, and they got a knife. Why are you worried about them? The Yemeni have been misunderstood by the West forever. Yes, they wear sandals. Yes, they wear dish rags. And yes, they have a cool knife. But that's cultural, traditional things. They also have PhDs. They also are engineers of the highest order. They know how to run a modern society. If you've been to the city of Sana'a, you'll see it as a modern, functioning city, as is many other places in Yemen. And when it comes to their defense, they had incorporated some of the most sophisticated weaponry of their day, and they knew how to use it. They're experts in its use. And when it came time to modifying the weapons that they had, these Scud missiles that they had, converting them into longer range missiles with greater capabilities, not only were they capable of doing this on their own, but when provided the opportunity to receive assistance from Iran, were able to rapidly assimilate the complexities of the engineering the Iranians were speaking of and adapt it to their indigenous manufacturing base, which is quite sophisticated. And so anybody who has studied Yemen and studied Yemeni engineering and their military industry, it would not come as a surprise that these fantastic scientists and engineers were able to build these weapons. But for people who continue to be bound by the prejudice of their ignorance, you wake up one morning to find a Yemeni missile puncturing your ship in the Red Sea, wondering how the hell this happened.
Yeah, they also speak the purest Arabic and are said to be the purest in faith matters also. Yemen is a very special place indeed. Let's go to the Holy Land next. The Chief of Staff of the Israeli army is said to have had a big shouting match with Netanyahu this week. He said to Netanyahu, we cannot govern 2 million people in the Gaza Strip. Who's going to govern them? And Netanyahu said, the state of Israel will govern them. Now get ahead and obey your orders. Then I started looking at recent videos of the guerrilla fighting, which is continuing in the ruins of Gaza. I mean, it would not have been out of place in Stalingrad. house to house fighting, and the superior armed Israeli occupiers were getting one hell of a pounding from, not in sandals, but in sneakers, these young fellows who are ready to die, to plant an IED under a half-track, under a tank, and shoot anything that moves coming out of it. The Israelis are not doing well in Gaza, militarily, never mind in public relations around the world, would you say?
The Israelis are losing militarily and in public relations around the world. This is an abject disaster for Israel. I mean, even the 12-day war with Iran, which is supposed to, show Israel's military supremacy over Iran, has failed. The censorship of Israel can't hide the fact that the Iranians dealt serious blows to the Israelis. It was the Israelis, after all, who begged for this ceasefire. And now we have Gaza. I don't want to say I told you so, but one of the first articles I wrote about a prolonged conflict with Gaza, in Gaza by the Israelis, I said, look, the Hamas is luring Israel into a piece of terrain. Israel will have the ability to destroy the buildings. But when that happens, you will get Stalingrad on the surface combined with Iwo Jima on the bottom. If you know the Battle of Iwo Jima, how the Japanese dug tunnels in the Mount Suribachi, then below, and it haunted the Marines as they advanced. The Japanese would come up out of the ground behind the Marines, sometimes in the Marines' foxholes, pull the Marines down and kill them. Yes, the Marines were able to defeat that because they didn't have Stalingrad on top of that. They had black volcanic sand. But now you combine Stalingrad on the top with the tunnels on the bottom, and Israel will never defeat this, ever defeat this. Not as long as there are Hamas fighters ready and prepared to give their lives in the struggle. And this is what we see. We saw in the first, was it 11, 15 months of fighting, I think 15 months, when Hamas came out from the tunnels, this wasn't a bunch of ragtag guys who just gotten their butts kicked. This was a proud army. They were strong, uniformed, disciplined. Yes, in the north, when the northern brigades came out intact, they looked a little haggard because they had been fighting the fight. But they weren't defeated. They were, resolute. And the Israelis, on the other hand, are a broken army. Gaza has changed them. Even with, amongst the true believers in Israel, within the IDF, they acknowledge that Gaza has destroyed them morally. They are finished. They are done. They are committing murder on a scale. There's not even a pretense anymore. They just straight up say we're killing civilians. We're shooting into the civilians to establish our presence. We're murdering the civilians just to shape the psychological, this is a war crime every day. And this is another thing that I said, sadly, we're going to get to the point where the world just wakes up and it's normal to see 147 dead Palestinian children. And we just go, oh, another day. This should shock us to death. We had a flood in Texas, and tragically, a couple dozen young children have lost their lives, swept away by the waters, and a nation is in mourning. Well, my God, what about the dozens that are killed every day in Gaza by American bombs dropped by an American ally working on the political instructions of an American president? Where's the outrage to the civilians to establish our presence? We're murdering the civilians just to shape the psychological, this is a war crime every day. And this is another thing that I said, sadly, we're going to get to the point where the world just wakes up and it's normal to see 147 dead Palestinian children. And we just go, oh, another day. This should shock us to death. We had a flood in Texas, and tragically, a couple dozen young children have lost their lives, swept away by the waters, and a nation is in mourning. Well, my God, what about the dozens that are killed every day in Gaza by American bombs dropped by an American ally working on the political instructions of an American president? Where's the outrage? Where's the shock? There is none. This is a sad state of affairs that we're in. But the bottom line is the Hamas fighters know. They know who's killing the children. They know who's to blame, and they will never surrender. Never surrender. I don't know how many times Donald Trump has to say, we're going to get rid of Hamas. You're not going to get rid of Hamas, Donald Trump. You don't have what it takes to get rid of Hamas. Hamas is there. Never surrender. Never surrender. I don't know how many times Donald Trump has to say, we're going to get rid of Hamas. You're not going to get rid of Hamas, Donald Trump. You don't have what it takes to get rid of Hamas. Hamas is there in the ground, and you can't get them out. And the Israeli chief of staff knows that. And Benjamin Netanyahu is going to have to learn that the hard way.
Mm-hmm.